Hello YouTubers, welcome to our channel. Here's presenting the second episode of Unexplored History. Episode 2, 10 Interesting Facts about Peshwa Madhavrao. Number 10. Turbulent Beginnings. Nizam Ali attacks Pune. Madhavrao received the robes of appointment as Peshwa on 20th July 1761. Merely 3 months into his term, he had to deal with a huge task when Nizam Ali, the son of Kamruddin Khan, attacked Pune. 60,000 armed men from Nizam's army raided and looted the province of Pune. Madhavrao requested help from Damaji Gaikwad, Janoji Bhosle and Mallar Rao Holkar to send an army to oppose these raiding troops. But since Mallar Rao was injured in the Battle of Mangrul, he could not reach before March 1762. Nizam fanatically attacked the places of holy importance and destroyed Tok, Pravara Sangam and Nevasa. Nizam even dug up the ancestral palace of Shindes in Srigonda. Such was the fear in Pune that most of the population was shifted to the forts of Purandar, Sinhagad and Lohagad. Finally, when Nizam captured Chas, Bhuleshwar, Hiwre and other nearby towns and reached Uruli, he was halted by combined Maratha forces of Gopal Rao Patwardhan, Trimbak Mama Pethe and Babuji Naik. At this time, Nizam had differences with his brother, Mir Mughal, who left his camp and joined the Marathas. Along with Mir Mughal, Ramchandra Jadhav also joined the Marathas. These two generals mediated a treaty between the parties. Raghunath Rao, who was advising Peshwa during these initial days, let Nizam go merely by ceding the captured territories and paying a mere sum of 40 lakhs. Gopikabai and the Patwardhans even accused Sakaram Bapu that he and Raghoba had some secret understanding with the Nizam. Number 9. Cold War with Uncle Raghunath Rao. A mismanaged treaty with the Nizam only fueled the Cold War between Raghunath Rao and Madhavrao. Raghunath Rao always wanted to be the Peshwa after the death of Nana Sahib, but had no support from the generals and the councilmen. Letters written from the camp in Ururi gives pretty clear picture that Raghunath Rao was indulging in selfish politics. On one hand, he was advising Madhavrao to continue to be the Peshwa and stated that he does not intend to involve in politics anymore and wishes to devote his life in the service of God. While, on the other hand, he along with his group of men like Gangoba Tatya and Sakaram Bapu started a non-cooperation with the Peshwa's administration. The matter escalated to such an extent that Raghunath Rao left Pune and went first to Vadgaon and then to the banks of God River, where he allied with the forces of Nizam. This led to a sudden attack on Peshwa's forces by Nizam and Raghunath Rao, which resulted in the Peshwa's surrender. Number 8. Vengeance. Defeats Nizam at the Battle of Rakshas Bhuvan. In the mid of 1763, the enmity between Nizam and the Peshwa was at its top. There was a temporary peace between Raghunath Rao and Madhavrao since Raghunath Rao did not gain anything from his friendship with Nizam Ali. In fact, Nizam very cunningly took back the territory that he had lost during the Battle of Udgir in 1760 by using Raghunath Rao. Prominent Maratha generals like Janoji Bhosle, Ramchandra Jadhav, Gopal Rao Patwardhan kept changing sides as and when it suited them. This resulted in the build-up to the battle at Rakshas Bhuvan. Nizam attacked Pune second time when most of the Maratha army was away from Pune. Temple at Parvati was desecrated and its idols crushed. Ramchandra Jadhav even attacked the holy shrine of Pandharpur, which was under Peshwa's control. On 5th of August, Nizam learnt about the Maratha forces planning to take back Pune and have vengeance. He quickly retreated towards Hyderabad via the route of Beed. On the 9th, near Mazalgaon, the streams of Godavari were flooded. This river is today known as the Par River. Nizam had to leave most of his army under the command of his general Vitthal Sundar Parshurami, who was his chief officer as well, and cross the river. It was the last day of Marathi month of Ashad and there were torrential rains. At sunrise, the Maratha army attacked the Nizam's army at once. Nizam's artillery opened fire with huge explosions, such huge that hundreds of men who survived the attack went deaf for a few days who were in the line of fire. In about 2 hours, Vitthal Sundar himself stepped into the battle and attempted to seize the elephant on which Raghunath Rao was mounted. Madhavrao, seeing this, charged rapidly on the horse with his troop and attacked Vitthal Sundar, pushing him back to the river. Vitthal Sundar lost his life during this skirmish and later his head was severed off. Maratha army mercilessly slaughtered the Nizam army, which was attempting to flee. Madhavrao sent the chopped head of Vittal Sundar to Nizam Ali, who was on the other side of the river, remaining as a mere spectator, mourning to the loss of his fine army. Number 7. Front against Hyder Ali. With the new Peshwa rising to his capacity at the Battle of Rakshas Bhuvan, many deserted generals and councilmen who had lost faith in the Maratha Confederacy renewed their ties with the Peshwa. While Madhavrao was busy with the Nizam affair, Hyder Ali attacked the provinces of Saunur, Bednur, Kurnool and Kadapa, which were under indirect Maratha control in late 1763. Peshwa Madhavrao decided to undertake an expedition in the south on Hyder Ali. Hyder Ali attempted to make a treaty with Nizam Ali, but all he received were hollow promises. At Saunur, where the Nawab was under siege from Hyder's army, Gopalrao Patwardhan, who rejoined Madhavrao, leading with an army of 2,500 men, attacked the camp at night. Hyder was caught off guard and had to flee, leaving his siege and his army as well. The Maratha army attacked and regained the lost provinces. Hyder Ali was routed, and never again did he attempt to cross the jungles of Bednur for the next few years. Number 6. Episode of the Pretender. Although secondary in the nature of politics, an incident from 1765 raised quite a few eyebrows in Maharashtra. Sukhlal, a Kanoja Brahman from the North India, appeared in Chhattarpur near Bundelkhand and claimed himself to be Sadashivrao Bhau. Sadashivrao Bhau was actually slain in the Battle of Panipat. Some minor Maratha officers from North's checkposts like Ganesh Sambhaji and Vishwasrao Lakshman accompanied him to Pune, where he claimed for the right of reinstatement. On his way to Maharashtra, he even accepted heavy sum of money in the form of tributes and gifts. Madhavrao Peshwa asked Mallarrao Holkar's intervention to look into this matter. Mallarrao sent intelligence that he indeed was an impostor. When invited to meet Mallarrao at Sultanpur, Sukhlal ran away at night from the camp with his followers. Madhavrao Peshwa then asked Hari Damodar Newalkar and Raghunath Hari Newalkar. This duo of father and son are actually the ancestors of Queen of Jhansi. He asked them to follow and catch Sukhlal and bring him to Pune. He was brought to Pune and examined by a jury led by Ram Shastri at the Budhwar Square in Pune. All of his jury determined that he was indeed an impostor. He was given a final chance to confess his crime in lieu of his life. When he confessed and gave out all of his previous history, he was beaten by a stick at the gathering by the Peshwa himself and was later imprisoned for life. Number 5. Partnership with Mahatji Shinde. From the plains of Panipat and the ashes of hundreds of thousands of Marathas arose an unlikely leader. Mahatji Shinde, who was the illegitimate son of Ranoji Shinde, came to power during the reign of Madhavrao Peshwa. He lost his leg at the Battle of Panipat, but survived after found unconscious by Rana Khan, a waterman. Mahatji Shinde first reached Pune and met Peshwa in early 1762 when he assisted Peshwa at the siege of Fort Miraz. Since all of his elder brothers were lost at the Battle of Panipat, the question of succession was pending and Mahatji requested the Peshwa's attention to this matter. Since Raghunath Rao was in command in 1762, he asked for a huge sum of money as Nazrana in lieu of Mahatji's appointment. Since Mahatji could not pay the sum, first Kedarji Shinde and then Manaji Shinde was appointed as the rightful heir by Raghunath Rao. Madhavrao Peshwa though always sided Mahatji as the rightful heir. When Peshwa was at Karnataka expedition, Raghunath Rao tried to arrest Mahatji and instate Kedarji as the patrimony of the Shindes at Ujjain. Mahatji held a council and received an unconditional support from Kedarji and other members of the family, thus taking the reins of the Shinde Shahi. Rising through the ranks and partnering with the Peshwa in the future years, Mahatji emerged as the man of destiny. Number 4. Role against the British menace. With the rise of Maratha power under the leadership of Madhavrao Peshwa, the British knew that an enemy was in the making. They always tried to indulge in the partition politics, gaining favors for the East India Company in return. When Raghunath Rao and Madhavrao were involved in Cold War, Raghunath Rao asked the British ambassadors at Mumbai to assist with his forces. Thomas Mostyn, the British ambassador to Pune, asked Raghunath Rao to cede the territories of Sashti and Vasai in return for his demands. Nizam came to Raghunath Rao's aid and he did not pursue this communication with the British further. Later in 1765, British sided with the Chhatrapati of Kolhapur and asked for the fort of Sindhudurg, which was given to them. They renamed it to Fort Augustus. Madhura wanted to take stern measures against the British, but was always busy with the open fronts in the north and the south at the same time. A notable decision during this time remains that he did not ally with the British when they requested that Maratha forces join them against the expedition which the British had opened against Hyder Ali. Madhura replied intelligently and sternly that although Hyder is our enemy, it is in the best interest of our country to fight our own battles rather than partake advantages of someone else's rivalry, which the British were actually doing. Number 3. Raghunath Rao's partition proposal and the final solution. Since the victory at Rakshas Bhuvan in Karnataka, Raghunath Rao realized that he had been eclipsed by the increasing likeliness, moral greatness and rising prestige of his nephew. Madhura always tried to keep him content of what he was best capable of during these years, but the constant turmoil kept sickening. Raghunath Rao even resented to such extent that he took the worship of fire and other left means. This quarrel reached its peak in the autumn of 1765 when Raghunath Rao proposed the idea of partition of the Maratha state. He insisted that the region of Gujarat and neighbouring forts be given under his exclusive control, to which Madhavrao Peshwa denied. Madhavrao nonchalantly stated that the Maratha kingdom had always been a single sovereign state under a central leadership and is the fruit of our forefathers. It will not be partitioned at any cost. He then proposed that if Raghunath Rao is so hungry for power, he may as well take the central control, let Madhavrao retire from politics. A consensus decision was made and Raghunath Rao was entrusted with an expedition to go to the north. Raghunath Rao did visit north for a brief period, but once back, he resumed his politics to gain the control. He took the control of the fort Dhodap and started gathering allies. Raghunath Rao even allied with the British and spoke with English ambassador Mostyn's assistant, Captain Brougham. On 10th June 1768, Peshwa's army attacked the base camp of Dhodap and made a clean sweep of the allies. Raghunath Rao first ran away on the fort, but later surrendered and remained in custody intermittently until the death of Peshwa Madhavrao. Number 2. Rise of illness. Madhavrao took charge at a young age of 16 and found his way through a series of obstacles. The Cold War within the family, ever-lingering threat of the Nizam, helping the masters at Satara in their transitions, open fronts in the south like the Hyder Ali, securing the Mughal king under the Maratha leadership, securing the northern strongholds which were lost in Panipat, unifying the depressed generals, creating a feeling of central and sovereign rule and keeping it ignited were some of the major painstaking tasks that he undertook. All this work took a great toll on a young body. Although tall, lean, and muscular with regular exercises was his physique, what stamped the final nail was the discovery of incurable disease, Raja Yakshma or the princely disease. It was to his intestines, and in the later days he would often ask for a dagger to cut open the bowels while he was crying in pain. In 1770, when Madhavrao started for the expedition in the south along with his generals, he had to return from his second halt at Miraz due to severe pain. The pain went from bad to worse, and Madhavrao understood that he will not survive the pain. He then started to work on the transition and confined himself into his deity's temple at Theur. Number 1. Panipat avenged. Rehold on the north. The most significant fact of Madhavrao's career remains the reinstatement of Mughal Badshah Shah Alam II to the throne of Delhi and the rehold of the lost territories in the north. Due to the worsening politics in Delhi, Shah Alam had to retire to Bihar and Bengal, where he appointed Shuja-ud-Dawla as his chief and tried to fight off the rising English power. They defeated Shuja's army again at the Battle of Buxar in 1763. This latter led to a coalition forming between the British and Shah Alam. British then used the king as the pawn and attempted to profit as much as they could in stabilizing themselves in Bihar, Bengal and North India. Mahatji Shinde and Mallarrao Holkar, aware of this growing English power, then informed the Peshwa the need to reinstate Shah Alam on the throne of Delhi. Peshwa Madhavrao directed Ramchandra Ganesh Kanade, Mahatji Shinde, Visaji Krishna Biniwale and Tukoji Holkar in 1768 to march with an army of more than 50,000 men and recapture the lost territories in the north. They were also instructed to free the locations of pilgrimage, mainly Banaras and Prayag. They began by putting down the Jat rebels. Soon Pratap Singh from Jaipur joined the Marathas and they proceeded towards Delhi. On their way, they defeated Naval Singh at the Battle of Govardhan on 5th April 1770. They further captured Agra, Mathura, and crossed Yamuna with the help of Najib Khan Rohilla. Najib Khan. He again started playing same old tactics in alliance with Ahmad Khan Bangash, who wanted to save Farrukhabad from the Marathas. But this time, the Maratha army and the captains were smart and educated by past experiences. Madhav Rao dispatched a second army while the first was camped and surrounded by the Pathans at Ramgarh. Destiny played its role, and Najib Khan died during this time. Zabeta Khan, his son, was taken as a hostage by the Marathas. Mahatji and Ramchandra Ganesh Kanade then attacked and captured the fort of Farrukhabad, town of Etawah, and other northern checkposts. Ahmad Khan, expecting the inevitable, died in grief. All personal agendas and generals at loggerheads were resolved by some stern words from Madhav Rao, who ensured that there was full cooperation in this expedition. This resulted in the reinstatement of Maratha power in the north. Maratha forces captured most of the lost provinces and checkposts which were lost during the Battle of Panipat. Hence, Visaji Krishna was welcomed in Pune by showering with golden flowers, as wished by Peshwa Madhav Rao in his will. Thank you for watching our video. Our books based on facts and contemporary evidences from Maratha history are now available online and at all leading bookstores. To share this video with your friends and colleagues, please like, share, comment and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you.